Okay, so the title of my YouTube channel is "Movies Are Alive," and besides movies, of course, I have tons of other interests. Um, Music being a gigantic one, I am very particular about the quality of the music that I listen to, and how I listen to it, and I'm very deep into that, and I have quite the large collection, and you know I I've always liked music, but I think my deep enjoyment of music came from movies. Um, I plan on doing a video talking about music quality and doing it a little bit different than what other people talk about it. Um, and um, and it's something that I feel like I would be doing a disservice not to be talking about the quality of music and trying to maybe educate a little bit about my thoughts on that. But first, this video is obviously going to be about movies and just kind of going through a quick list of some of the main movies that have inspired me to listen to genres of music that I never listened to before. There's a ton of movies that have great soundtracks and a ton of movies that I've learned songs and artists and genres of music from. So maybe there'll be a follow up to this at some point. But starting with the my three favorite soundtracks, and all dealing with the genre of like electronic, techno, trip hop type of, uh, mostly mid to late '90s types of music. And those three movies are The Saint from 1997, The Jackal from '98, and The Beach from 2000. Um, all two-word titles starting with the word "the." Um, just fantastic soundtracks. Just every single song on them is great. And what's really great about these particular soundtracks and others on the list is that the music was definitely sought out and procured for the movie. It felt like it didn't feel like they were just throwing in popular songs just because. It felt like they actually thought about what was going into the sounds of the movie. Uh, I mean, you listen to the best soundtrack, the Saint. Um, Somehow the songs take you back to the scenes that they're in. They feel like they're appropriate in the world of not just 1997, but no, they feel like they're appropriate in the world of the characters, and that goes the same with The Beach and the Jackal, and probably the other movies on this list as well. So yeah, so those are three huge ones. Great soundtracks, trip hop, electronic, techno type of music. Definitely check them out if you've not seen those or heard the music or anything like that. Great, great, great. Um, Classic rock, my favorite genre of music. Um, I knew about bands before I would see some of the movies. Like for instance, I I always remember first getting into the Beatles from "Can't Buy Me Love." I saw that as a young kid, but "Dazed and Confused" from 1993, just one of the all-time great soundtracks. You have so many bands from the '70s, and boy, you listen to that soundtrack, and then you look up the bands that's in it, and you listen to the music, and you listen to, and you do this with all the music on this list. But you know, you just it's really great to really branch out and experience not just the song, but the entire album that song came on, and then maybe all the other albums from the same artist, and then similar artists. So yeah, so Days to Confused, a great one. Detroit Rock City, a soundtrack that not only has a ton of Kiss songs on it, but once again a whole bunch of songs from other bands, very similar to the Days to Confused soundtrack. Just super good. Almost Famous. Now, the soundtrack is really good, but I will always remember the scene when when you see the photo, the front of the album for the Who's Tommy, and it's mentioned in the movie. It's not just in the background. I mean, the album is right there in front and center, and there's dialogue about it. But I always enjoyed how that album was, its importance was had to have been something that I knew I needed to listen to, because it was such a point in the movie. And the Who, top three band of mine. But yeah, I mean, I knew my generation, but boy, that movie really helped me go on the journey of discovering them. And then The Fan with Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes. That was a movie that it was really about the Rolling Stones. Robert De Niro's character, that was his band he listened to, and I remember hearing "Start Me Up" in the movie and just really liking it, and it fit perfectly in the movie. And then of course, you go from there. So another era of music, as 50s and 60s. You got some classic rock stuff from the 50s. You got a lot of the poppy songs. You have R&B. There's a whole bunch of, it's kind of hard to say 50s and 60s music, but that general area. You have Stand By Me and The Sandlot, two very similar movies, as far as the music that's in them, the type of story that's being told. Two great soundtracks. Dirty Dancing, yet another soundtrack that is just great. It's like so many great hits is on that. Just really great to dance to, yeah. But it also just really opens up a whole new world of music that I was unfamiliar with. And Pulp Fiction, really any Quentin Tarantino movie for that matter, but Pulp Fiction, so many classic hits in that movie. It made, you could mention songs from that era, from the era of the 50s and 60s, and I think a lot of people, unless they got into it, they would probably look at some of those songs and probably think that, oh, that's super old music now. I mean, so it might not be something that younger people could really get into, but in Pulp Fiction and all the other Tarantino movies, it makes that music seem cool. Like, if I like it, it's all right. It's okay to like this music. In fact, you should really like the music because it's great. And so I have always enjoyed that era of music, and yeah, there's no denying it's a great soundtrack. And finally, La Bamba, kind of rounding out lots of the 50s rock, with lots of Buddy Holly tunes, and obviously uh, the La Bamba himself, Richie Valens, the Big Bopper, all them. So yeah, so it's yet another great movie and soundtrack. New wave. I knew of new wave music as, oh, those one hit wonders from the 80s, like, oh, Tainted Love, or I Ran So Far Away, stuff like that. And I always knew of that music as being good songs, but I always felt that, or I always thought that it was probably just like they're known as one hit wonders, and probably wasn't very good music in general. And then I watched Donnie Darko, and boy, you want to talk about some great songs, some fantastic editing to those songs in the movie. You knew the director had a vision for supporting the movie with those songs in particular. And so of course, getting into Tears for Fears and all the great groups of that new wave era, and really exploring, they're not one hit wonders, so many of them. Tainted Love, Soft Cell, that their album, which Tainted Love is on, is a fantastic album. I mean, really great stuff. But all the bands from that era, from the '80s, there was even American Psycho, which introduced me to a little bit of new wave with Huey Lewis and the News, and getting into Phil Collins and all that. So yeah, so some great stuff there. I've really enjoyed the new wave era, and have liked a lot of full albums. Great stuff. And then the final genre is the kind of like hard rock. Um, it's not really metal, but the I always hate the term that they used for it, but the Marilyn Manson, what they call it, there's like a term, industrial, is it? Anyway, I just call it hard rock. Um, the music from Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. That is probably the number one soundtrack as far as that music. You know, having like Rob Zombie and groups like that. Um, Not my favorite of genres as far as listening to a whole bunch of different groups, but the, I mean, just that soundtrack alone and those bands. When I'm in the mood, I really enjoy it. It's something that like all these movies and all these songs and groups and everything, that they take you back to an era. So listening to those songs, I can really put myself into the place of when I was in my teens. Of course, can't do that with lots of the other albums on here. I was not alive during the 50s and 60s and whatnot, but yeah, this was truly an era that I was exposed to a lot of the music through the radio station in Kansas City where I lived. They played a lot of the music from that era, and so yeah, so not my favorite, but I do enjoy it when I'm in the mood quite a lot. Let me know in the comments if there's any particular movies that you like and you also equally like the soundtrack to. Um, Triple X. There's another one from 2002 that had a lot of good music from that era. But yeah, if I feel this video does good enough and I come up with some other movies, I did not want to make the list too long, and I will include a list in the description below of all the movies that I've mentioned here. But if you've not seen the movies or heard the soundtracks, well, obviously check them out. Let me know in the comments your recommendations, and we'll see if I come up with a part two. But the next video, I'm going on vacation, but when I do get back, I will be making a video talking all about audio quality, and there might be some surprises as far as what's better, vinyl or CD or streaming or whatnot. It's an easy answer. It's a complicated answer, and it's an answer that I've not really seen anyone else on YouTube go get into. I feel like people in the comments of videos kind of understand, but then the people making the videos lots of times don't quite get it. But I'll throw my own 2 cents in there on the next video. Until the next time, have a good evening.